The river, known as the Zamu River, was sacred and believed to be a gateway to the afterlife. The villagers would prepare the bodies, cleanse them with the water from the river, and perform rituals to ensure a peaceful passage to the world beyond.
highlifeng.com.
In a small village deep with the heart of Africa, there lived a beautiful young woman named Nandi. The village was vibrant, full of life and energy, with people going about their daily chores, trading at the markets and gathering for celebrations. It was a place where everyone knew each other and the spirit of community was strong. Nandi was known by everyone, but not for reasons one might expect. Nandi was a widow, having lost her husband years before to a mysterious illness. She lived in a small hut on the outskirts of the village. Unlike most villagers, she rarely participated in the communal activities. Instead, she kept to herself, tending to her small garden and selling vegetables at the market. The villagers often whispered that she had become bitter and strange after her husband's death, but Nandi never listened to their whispers. The village had a peculiar tradition where they honored the spirits of the dead by keeping their bodies near the river before they were buried. The river, known as the Zamu River, was sacred and believed to be a gateway to the afterlife. The villagers would prepare the bodies, cleanse them with the water from the river, and perform rituals to ensure a peaceful passage to the world beyond. Weeks later, Nandi decided to stop selling vegetables and switch to food selling. She found it hard to make a living and meet up with her needs, as she barely made enough income through the vegetable business. And so, she decided to switch to cooking and selling of food, as she believed that would bring more profits and make her more popular and well known in the village by everyone. She sold all her vegetables at a cheaper rate to her neighbors at the market and added it to her little savings. But after drafting out all the necessary expenses, the money won't be enough for her to buy the cooking ingredients and other materials needed for the business. She borrowed some money from her daily contributions and added it up with the one at hand. She was guided by a woman named Ifechi. Ifechi was also a food seller at the local market. She taught Nandi all she needed to know about the business, and soon Nandi was able to secure a small space for the business with the help of Ifechi, and she was very grateful to her. Now, everything Nandi needed for her cooking business was set. So is the space for her business. The next morning, as the cock crowed, Nandi, together with Ifechi, went to the village big market to buy some food ingredients and started cooking for the day's business. After cooking, she started selling, though it was hard to get more customers because it was her first day, but slowly she was able to gather few customers who buy from her. Nandi was not only a beautiful woman, she was also a good cook, but being beautiful and a good cook never fetched her the large numbers of customers she expected. Ifechi encouraged her to be more patient as she is new to the business, and with time, more people will get to know her and patronize her. 4 weeks later, the villagers got to know about Nandi's cooking business, and they started to patronize her as soon as they got to know about it to support her sales. Some of the villagers recommended her food to their friends, and Nandi was happy and grateful to the villagers for patronizing. Months later, Nandi's cooking business was still thriving. The number of her customers kept increasing every day, and soon she was known all over the village and market, to the extent that many rich men in the village, including the neighboring village, always patronized her and gave her contracts to cook every of their big events, and they pay her handsomely. Nandi was more than happy, and she was grateful to God the day she decided to switch to cooking. Nandi would always make sure not to let her customers wait or complain about her food, as she take extra care while cooking and would always make sure to keep everywhere neat. And that was another reason why many people love to eat her food. As time went by, Nandi expanded her space by renting the other space close to her space, as the number of her customers kept increasing each day, and the space she rented earlier was not enough for her customers to sit and eat. Within few months, Nandi was able to gather many customers because of her tasty food, and she was happy, but little did she know that she already had an enemy in the market. Now, before I continue, I would like to ask, do you really know who the enemy was? And what would be your reaction when you find out? Well, let me know at the comment section down below. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and share to support our channel. Thank you for your support, and I love you all so much. So, without wasting much of our time, let's continue from where we stopped. One evening, after sales, Ifechi visited Nandi, and both friends chatted for some hours. And Nandi once again was grateful to Ifechi for supporting her from the start and encouraging her never to give up. And Nandi promised Ifechi to recommend some of her customers to her eatery, and also promised to take her to one of the big events she was paid to cook. And through there, she would also introduce her to some of the rich customers to also patronize her, just to show her appreciation for supporting her and making her business grow. The following week, just as promised by Nandi, she took Ifechi to one of the big events held by some of the rich men in the village to cook. And so, after the event was over, Nandi introduced Ifechi to some of the big fish in the village, and they promised to patronize Ifechi when next they host a party. Ifechi was happy and thanked Nandi for introducing her to them, and just as promised by the rich men, a birthday party was held the following week, and Ifechi was given the contract to prepare all the dishes for that day. It was a big celebration held by one of the richest men in the village. Ifechi told Nandi about it, and Nandi was so happy for her and wished her good luck on her first contract. The guests loved the food, but they wished it was Nandi that prepared it, as her food was more delicious, but nevertheless, they thanked Ifechi as her food was also tasty, and they paid her very well. After some days, they went to Nandi's eatery as usual to eat, and after eating, they paid her extra just to thank her for not letting them down per the previous event, and Nandi was grateful for that. Some days later, Nandi was given a contract to cook all kinds of dishes in the neighboring village in the king's palace, as it was the king's Ofala. It was a big contract and a grand celebration, and a huge amount was paid to Nandi for the contract, and also Nandi was given the opportunity to meet with the king's rich friends from other villages, and they all loved her cooking and her neatness. One day, Ifechi visited Nandi's hut, and they discussed for hours, and then Nandi told Ifechi about her meeting with the king's rich business friends in the neighboring village and the new contract she was able to secure from the event. And just as Ifechi left, Nandi's phone rang. It was one of the king's famous friends from the previous events had called her to be ready in 4 days' time to prepare all the dishes for his father's funeral, and a huge amount of money was paid into her account that day. Nandi was very happy to receive the good news, though she was sad because it was a burial ceremony and she felt bad for the lost soul. The day for the event came and Nandi was glad to be given the contract, and as usual, she traveled together with some of her sales girls and Ifechi because the burial ceremony would last for 3 days. It was a grand celebration, and so everyone was present at the event, including the king and other famous men in the village. 3 days later, and the celebration was over, Nandi, her sales girls and Ifechi traveled back to their village with lots of gifts given to them by the hosts as an appreciation for honoring their invites. Weeks later, Nandi got several calls and messages from many people from the last occasion complimenting her of the dishes she prepared and how she managed everything throughout the occasion. And as usual, she was able to secure new contracts from one of the richest men in the neighboring village, Chukwude. Mr. Chukwude was not only the most richest man in the neighboring village, he was also famous and well known all over the village and other villages. Mr. Chukwude was a single wealthy man and he's into local and international trading of livestock, and so many women in and out of the village wished to have him all to themselves and would do anything to please him and make him notice them. But Mr. Chukwude was a man who only had time for his business and never take notice of any woman. But in the case of Nandi was different. Mr. Chukwude, for the first time in his life, felt something deep for Nandi. The first day he saw her at his friend's father's burial ceremony, his heart beat more for Nandi when he knew that she was the one that had prepared the occasion food, for he had never tasted such delicious food before. After the ceremony was over, he wished to have a word with Nandi that day, but was a bit heartbroken when he was told that she had left earlier that day. He was able to get her contact from his friend who hosted the burial ceremony. He was glad to have given a second chance to meet with her again by calling her to discuss about business. Mr. Chukwude would be ordained as the new chairman, so he decided to host a party for everyone in the village to celebrate his new added position, and that was why he collected her number from his friend and also used the opportunity to see and talk to her about his feelings. The occasion was to take place the following week, and Nandi and her guests was fully ready as usual. The day of the occasion came. Nandi and her guests prepared all the required dishes for the occasion, and as usual, everyone loved her cooking and demanded for more. The occasion was celebrated in a grand style, and all the invited and non-invited guests had more than enough to eat, and they all went home with extra food as takeaway. They congratulated him and complimented him for making the right choice of a cook like Nandi. While all that was going on, his eyes and attention was on Nandi in order not to lose sight of her again. In the midst of the celebration, his close friend, Nnamdi, noticed his absent-minded and confronted him. At first, he tried to deny it, but Nnamdi was a man who never takes no or nothing for an answer, and after much pressure from him, Mr. Chukwude was forced to speak out, and he told Nnamdi about his feelings for Nandi. Nnamdi was very happy, for him because for the very first time he had feelings for a woman, and that made Nnamdi to be extremely happy for him and wished him good luck. Finally, after the occasion was over, Mr. Chukwudi was able to have a word with Nadi and gathered the courage to tell her about his feelings. Though Nandi was a bit shy, but she was already in love with him the very first day she saw him at the burial ceremony, but was afraid to show it because she thought he was married or might have a woman he wished to marry. They were happy to know each other's feelings and decided to give it a try, and so they kicked up a relationship. When Nandi got to her village, she told Ifechi all that happened and her newfound love. Ifechi was happy for her and wished her well. Now, before we continue, I would love to plead with you all to subscribe, like our videos, and also drop your comments at the comment section down below to support and grow our channel. I also noticed that those that watched our video more haven't subscribed to our channel. Please, I beg you all in the name of God and Allah, subscribe, like, and comment. It's very free. Thank you and I love you all. See you in our next story. Bye.